We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
I'm back.
Anywhere you meet me, guaranteed to go down.
I like the way you ride with that booty on me.
It's going down.
Go down while you looking lonely.
It's going down.
Come around and it's all on me.
Anywhere you meet me, guaranteed to go down.
So, new year, new intro. Let's get it. I'm not so sure if I'm going to promise to be a brand new me this year, but my reactions are going to be a lot differently. I'm not going to be doing the most. I'm not going to be doing above and beyond, and I'm going to stay in my lane. That is how 2026 is going to be from here out. Either roll with me or I'm going to roll over you or around you. Whichever is easier.
Okay, she headed to the dance floor and she slowly started popping it. Song like my wrist piece, everybody got to watching it. Girl, you got that secret treasure, I'm gon' put a lock on it. Don't care what they say, I would be stupid if we not on it.
Watch me flex. Who is that? That is me. Basically getting my swerve on. Another creative outlet that I wanted to share with the listening public. That is me, Higher Ground. I dropped it. The music is available wherever you listen to music. Run my numbers up on Spotify. Play and play often. The link to it will actually also be in this week's podcast notes. But I introduced that because basically I asked AI to create lyrics for something, song on the level of the fan dancer Beyonce and get my groove on. And getting something that is a bop is what I was looking for. I think it was a good idea, just similar to my other song that I also released on Spotify, Hold Me Close. It's just something that'll get you up and get you moving. And this is what I want to talk about today. Movement is the cure to the doldrums. Also, it has its own when you control inflammation, you actually want to move because you're not in pain. A natural way to do that, besides meditation as well as dancing, you also can use natural extracts from rosemary. One, when you boil it, that's probably a great way. It's not like you destroy its anti-inflammatory actions like you can if you add lemon and mint to boiling water, and basil, because they lose their benefits when you add to high heat. Rosemary is unique because the beneficial compounds are actually locked in the tough needle-like structure. Boiling it for 15 minutes is the best maximum antioxidant extraction, and you can steep it for flavor and for the aroma. Also, it gives you not only an energy boost, but it also gives you a brain boost. Just like listening to great music or the melodic voice of somebody that just actually feels happy and feels good because they aren't in pain. I combine this rosemary, and it makes your house smell good too, y'all. with a little bit of ginger, rosemary, and even some raw honey and some filtered water. And this gives you the tea that actually will give you the boost. The best time to use it is mid-morning, but if you also need a mid-afternoon pop, you can actually do it around 2 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's great. And it also has massive anti-inflammatory response, but it also is beneficial to boost your brain power too. You know, also, I always joke about big backing, but I think understanding how big backetry actually is a low grade inflammatory state will make you think differently about not doing something about obesity. There isn't even a name for what it's called, y'all. It's called meta inflammation. No, it has nothing to do with Facebook. But if you just spend all your time doom strolling on Facebook or the like, you will get fatter. You got to get up. You got to start moving. Interestingly enough, fat cells do store energy, but as they get bigger, they outstrip their blood source. It sends out a 911 that the fat cells are dying. And so the macrophages, which is a type of white blood cell, is activated. If you're smaller, you have M2, which are anti-inflammatory or repair. But when you're a big back, it's pro-inflammatory cells that basically start popping out all the inflammatory proteins that like TNF, CRP, and also like leptin resistance that block insulin, make you less full. So it trains your brain that you're hungry and you just continue to gain more weight and subsequently become more, have more inflammation. The constant inflammation damages your vessel linings, triggers fat accumulation in your liver, which leads to non-alcoholic fatty liver, and also damage the cells that produce insulin, progressing you towards type 2 diabetes, and increases insulin resistance because the insulin is that you do produce is also blocked by the same processes. It's all reversible. Even a modest weight loss of 5 to 10% reduces these inflammatory markers. Like usually natural things like ginger, turmeric, rosemary, and anthracyclines, like from like apples and other naturally red occurring vegetables, dampens this simmer while you do other things to work on your metabolic health. I think the new craze are the injectables of what is it called? I can't even think of it. That Ozempic and the like, squats, not shots, which is funny. I took that from Sheree Whitfield from Real Housewives of Atlanta. But they have so many side effects. Swallow, issues with your thyroid, increasing colitis, renal failure, all those things. Wouldn't it be great if we were to get a hold of our health more naturally and just using those things like ginger, turmeric, and rosemary, which only enhances your mobility without the same side effects? I think we'll be actually happier. So, with those things said, it's more flavorful and a very pro-nose, great smelling life when you use those things that I've mentioned to you before. And I'm also going to be working out a daily anti-inflammatory protocol that also will, and rituals that will enhance these habits. So stay tuned for part 2 of this as I explore my journey in anti-inflammatory journey in upcoming episodes of my podcast. Follow me if you're willing to take a oath to decrease the inflammation in your life. And sometimes you got to cut out those cancers. And I'm just saying, not just in the physical sense of cancer by every other name, but sometimes people also will drive you to be a big back, encourage the big backness without maybe unintended. So follow me for my journey in anti-inflammatory journey. Mahershala Ali got it right. She said, I found my place when I stopped looking for it. And if you want to change something, or if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude. That's right. I mean, you also, if you're going to reflect and you really want to make a change, or you find something that you really like doing, but there you find you are your biggest hindrance, you got to basically remove those things. I also find that at my big age, I'm also more avoidant of certain types of people. But there are a lot of people that now I'm finding, as I find myself or my way forward or navigating through this next chapter, I realize that I avoid these people like the plague and I didn't even know it. But Pope Leo did. He says there are 5 people to avoid to navigate your next chapter in life in peace and in freedom without chaos. An elderly woman once told her sister, and this is referring to her friend, I love her, but I cannot breathe when she leaves. It is as though she blows out the candles in my house. The sister answered her with a gentle truth. Love her from a distance, for God did not ask you to sacrifice your peace to satisfy another's unrest. If somebody constant complaining suffocates joy, God is trying to nourish in you, then you must protect your inner sanctuary. The second type of person is the manipulator. This is more subtle and often the most painful. Manipulation does not come with shouting. It comes wrapped in words that sound like care, like duty, like obligation. Manipulators use guilt to control. They speak of love, but demand submission. God never weaponizes guilt. Therefore, every person who steals your freedom is damaging the gift God placed in you. The third type reminds you of who you once was, not to heal you, but to diminish you. They keep you fixed in an outdated portrait of who you once were, refusing to see the grace God has formed in you. Your past is not a weapon for others to wield. The fourth one just are the darkness bearers. These people just carry darkness like a shroud. Not always in obvious ways, not always with dramatic sins, but with a presence that pulls the soul away from the light. These are the people who normalize what leads you away from God, who diminishes the seriousness of sin, who feed resentment, who speak lightly of what wounds the conscience, who invite you into anger, division, or habits that cloud the clarity of prayer. A neighbor who arrives not with warmth, but with gossip that stains the mind. A relative comes not with compassion, but with burdensome anger that pulls the spirit into old conflicts. Then there's the silent, but just as daily. This cold silence is not the silence of contemplation. It is a silence of indifference. It's a silence that neither builds nor comforts. There is a relative who shows no interest in your well-being, a friend who never asks how your heart is, a companion who takes but never gives. Your soul is too close to eternity to be entangled in the shadows of others. Rise above the storm of others. You will live the later years as God intended, not in confusion, but in clarity, not in exhaustion, but in grace. And that's a word right there. You can listen to this contemplation by Pope Leo in its entirety. And I have the link to it, the YouTube video in the podcast notes. Butterfly in the sky, I can go twice as high. So take a look, it's in a book, a reading rainbow. I can go anywhere. Where's to know and where's to grow, a temporal rainbow. I can be anything. So take a look, it's in a book, a tenfold rainbow. A tenfold rainbow. A tenfold rainbow. Left to my own devices, what I am going to do is probably look for different ways to keep messing with my dog or figure out what is going on in the book world. Well, I'm in the rewriting or editing stages for my own book, but I wanted to take a closer look at the original Wonderful Wizard of Oz. That was actually, I didn't realize until today that it actually dropped in 1900. And it's more, and I've always known it was more than a children's fairy tale, but, and then even though we used to watch it every year when I was a kid, the 1939 film made it a household name, but it was just more than that. It was a folklore tale from industrial era anxiety until like how you can grow psychologically, supposedly. I know that there are several themes in the book rife with racism, maybe, but also I never really looked at it as a classic tale of classism either. The original story looks at the gray, parched prairies of Kansas, Dorothy, an orphan living with her aunt and uncle, gets swept up in a cyclone with her dog Toto, which is crazy to me because I'm actually sitting here holding Ethel Mertz right now. We're just chilling. And she basically lands in the vibrant land of the Wizard of Oz and Technicolor, the country of the Munchkins. The house accidentally lands on and kills the wicked witch of the East, liberating the local people, the Munchkins. In the original book, and I didn't know this until today too, that the original book had silver shoes versus the ruby slippers, like in the book, in the movie, excuse me. But she had the way to get home back to old gray Kansas. She was told she had to follow the yellow brick road to the Emerald City, ask the great Oz for help, and she meets the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Cowardly Lion. We finally figure out that the wizard is a bunch of humbug because he has really no power, and he basically floats away, leaving her there to her own devices in a hot air balloon. Apropos. And she, with them shoes, symbolizes that she can get back home on her own recognizance. You know what I'm saying? External authority. The irony of the book, the people or the characters are searching for the traits that they already possess. They've just been convinced that they don't possess them. The scarecrow, who actually is looking for a brain, he actually plans everything when you realize it. The Tin Man, he weeps. He's looking for a heart, but he weeps when he even steps on the bug. And he gets caught out in the rain and he rusts. The Lion, he basically is very protective, even though he's kind of cowardly, but he be fighting over and jumping through stuff. Protection, There's difference in the gray and technicolor. And in the book, the harsh reality of the frontier at the time versus the escapism of the color fairyland. Kansas is not as gray as depicted in the pre-war or pre-secondary second Great War. But it really hasn't changed that much. The interior hasn't really changed that much. About perception is key. But it also represents a return to self-reliance. And if you want to get home, again, if you, just like I said in the last segment, if you want to change something, you actually have the capability to change it. Ruby slippers, silver slippers, or not. What does all these things mean? The yellow brick road, but let's dial it back. The silver shoes. In the original book, there was a popular sentiment at the start of the end of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th century, where they wanted to make the golds have our standard gold and silver. So being reliant on that, and having a gold standard, the yellow brick road, follow the yellow brick road, that was danger and deception. The silver shoes was the free silver movement, which was supposed to be a solution to all the farmers' problems. Slight problem with the free silver movement. The goal was to create a bimetal system where we put, the government that is, supplied an unlimited amount of silver coins alongside the gold standard of 16-1. Who, with this help, it was to basically help the farmers, to basically cause inflation so the crops would rise on the cheaper dollar, so they could actually pay off their debts. The only problem is there were not only silver mines, new deposits that were found, there were also gold found in Alaska and South Africa. So that wasn't going to work anyways because of Gresham's law also. The actual market value of silver will drop if you can pump a whole bunch of silver into it, which would result in gold completely disappearing from the U.S. economy, leaving only cheap-ass silver. Instead of having a stable two-metal system, the U.S. would accidentally be crashed onto the silver standard, isolating itself from international trade because everybody traded in silver, got the gold, and left the country. So nobody was going to fit in to do that. And it would eventually destroy savings because you would have a lot of worthless silver and silverback greenbacks, and nobody is going to convert that to what? You know what I mean? So everybody would be on the hook for that, and nobody wanted that. And I also started going down a rabbit hole when I started to think about applicability to not only the differences between the original movie what this actually did. This have some applicability today of all days? This political is really a very political allegory. They basically thought of DC and politicians in general as a bunch of humbug. DC is the Emerald City, but it's only when you take off your emerald tinted glasses, it's just a cold marble, white marble, and there's nothing good there. How do we frame this into what's going on today? Well, there's a number of reasons. Number one, as I stated, in this world of algorithmic social media, we are often forced to view reality through spectacles or even them expensive ass Ray-Bans provided by Meta and the likes. This creates a perception as reality environment where the narrative of the economy or a policy is often more important than what the actual impact on rural workers and gig workers, the proverbial rural America and the tin men. We could compare free silver to the modern parallel with cryptocurrency, where just as the silver wanted to break away from the gold standard to help the common man, crypto populists argue that decentralized finance will strip power from the modern wicked witches or the big banks. I don't know how true that is, but I know that there is a balance. We will never get away from some of our conventional standards because of volatility and, again, Gresham's law. We can't keep putting bad money because it will drive out the good money to a certain extent. It also, this illusion and the deep state, modern political movements on both the left and the right often use the man behind the curtain trope, whether it's the deep state, shadow government, or Wall Street at least. There's a reoccurring narrative that our leaders are mere figureheads for more powerful, unseen forces. Like the wizard, modern leaders are often accused of being humbugs who use media optics, these green glasses, to hide a crumbling reality. But once the people actually have our individual agencies, we're not fooled by the Emerald City. We know, or smart people, we know the truth. When you basically turn off the TV or you tune into other things, you take social media for what it is. Most people are live. Also, I also know my power and my salvation is not going to come from DC. That is really where your destruction will come from if you rely simply on DC. But my individual agency on a local level is what's going to keep me safe, and my individuality. I can't keep isolated for too long, but I also know my true protection is really on a local level. And this political game of always being on 20, I don't have time for that either. And also, now that everybody is looking at this symbolism behind alphabet, what did that really mean in the original book and in the series, or in the movie, and in current movies? The Wicked Witch of the East was the banking and industrial monopolies. The Wicked Witch of the West meant railroad and oil giants. With the winged monkeys, and this is racist as all, are Native Americans or Chinese laborers. They weren't inherently wicked, but they were forced to do the bidding of the powerful witch, the corporations, and under contraction capital. What basically destroyed her was water, because that's how you kill bad. It was the drought and the water rights that they tried to basically that's how you squeeze the farmers, but that's also how you get rid of what is actually holding the farmers under their thumb. And who is the wicked witch of the West today? It is Amazon, it's Google. If you control the information and delivery, that's how you monopolize and can power people. But that is where you throw some water on it and blows it all up. Just like you can destroy a computer, also you could throw off logistics if you insert a virus. And that's a word right there. If the wizard used smoke and mirrors to lead modern witches, then modern witches use algorithms, just as the witch of the West had a telescopic eye to see everything in her domain. Modern data monopolies have a 360-degree viewer of their consumer. The modern populist movement, whether focused on data privacy, right to prepare, or antitrust laws, is essentially a quest to find the bucket of water that can dissolve these concentrated centers of power. That's why once you break your dependence on social media to entertain you, or breaks its hold over you so you can act, this is one of those things that can drain you. If you can break away from the TV, from the doom scrolling, etc., and basically look for other avenues of creativity, how much better would this modern world be? I say this all the time. One of the greatest things, or the best thing that I did for myself, is when I basically signed off of most social media platforms. I don't have any need for it, and those platforms don't have any need for my information. I'm not given that much. Even a little bit of information that I put out there, I don't want it to be used to hold me hostage. That is a freedom snatcher and a peace snatcher, if I've ever heard of one. When you don't give over to the tug of social media and you do other things, that you find entertainment and you find other ways for creativity. And it actually helps somebody. For the words that you find, the truths that I find out for myself, I'm hopeful that it's going to actually help somebody else find meaning in other things to read, or look at things from old, like I did with the Wizard of Oz, looking at the themes and symbolism and finding other meanings from it to not only help me and feed my soul, but hopefully will actually assist in this nourishment for others. Y'all know, left to my own devices, I'm going to have AI assist me in reimagining a world, or entertain me in ways that conventional TV and other podcasts can't. Well, the photo that is included with the podcast notes basically tells that. It's my version of representation, political resilience, and the Black girl magic that basically informs and supports my life. Dorothy, in this case, is an African-American every woman. She represents and is cited as the backbone of democracy, that modern Black women. We journey from Kansas to Technicolor Oz as we transition by being overlooked in the margins to a center stage in the vibrant, complex political landscape. I changed the silver shoes or the red slippers to Louboutins because we always going to have some drip. Economic and social power that represents Black women, we wield every single day in our own agency. People are sitting back watching. What are we going to do? How are we going to fix this? When y'all told you didn't want to fix this, you got rid of DEI. You didn't want to know how to include us. You basically tried to dismantle it. You basically said and called Kamala Harris names. Says she was ill-equipped to lead us. We tried to put and support even the white girl, Hillary Clinton. Y'all said, nah, we're good over here. So this is what you get. We basically tasked or castigate people like Kamala Harris, who's overqualified for every role that she has tried out for. She has what is representation of institutional intellect. She was a prosecutor, attorney general, VP. She is the brain of the legal and executive system that y'all basically said she was overqualified to run this country. So you got a possible syphilitic dumbass, and y'all have given him this power, and he keeps doing dumb shit, and y'all wonder why he keep doing dumb shit, and and y'all don't have the balls to stop it. But y'all put the most qualified lady back on the side because it was way obvious that she was overqualified for the position that she was running for. And she could have done it with her hands tied behind her back. Then we got Stacey Abrams. She is a lion, but y'all tried to make her cowardly, fighting against voter suppression and political giants in the South. Her roar is the voice of the truly disenfranchised. Her journey isn't about finding courage. It's about the endurance to keep roaring until the gates of the Emerald City, the capital, whether in Atlanta or in D.C., are open to everyone. And then we got Jasmine Crockett cutting them deep with her rhetoric, sharp wit and passionate defenses in congressional hearings. Tin Man. Usually Tin Man is an industrial worker hardened by a system until he lost his heart. Crockett represents the passion and the fire. She's the exact opposite of that, but her axe is her tongue, and she uses it very effectively. Everybody that comes up against her, from a stupid kid with the last name Trump to everybody sitting on Capitol Hill, she's gathering the girlies. The Wicked Witches, I don't have a period of them because the East is economic inequality in the glass ceiling. The West and South, voter disenfranchisement and the red tape of bureaucracy. There's no place like home. Isn't a place that you run back to escape the world. It's the community you build or you help sustain. Dorothy, the every woman, realizes that her power doesn't come from a wizard's approval, but from a sisterhood she's formed on that yellow brick road. That brick road is not false gold. It is truly gold, built and bought by her own sacrifice and the sweat of her brow. And that's a word right there. My apologies to Henry Mancini, but a riff on the Pink Panther theme is in alignment with a podcast segment dedicated to a fictional PI and all about true crime, or fictional crime in this case. Don't you think? Yes, billionaire scammer extradited to China. That's one thing I can say about the Chinese. They do got the death penalty, and you ain't gonna stay on death row for too many years before they zip your ass. But Chen Zi is gonna want to flee because this dude ran up against somebody because he was allowed to operate with impunity within this country for over a decade, and they finally got him. How do you mean, y'all, this joker how does Joker have scam farms? Are you kidding me? Look here. This dude, 37-year-old, running internet, scamming people for billions. He basically operated up against the bill. I didn't know Cambodia, since the Khmer Rouge rolled through there. Why is it now a haven for billionaire scammers? He was basically, and he also had his company, Prince whatever, actually had a bank, a subsidiary of the Prince Group. And they basically froze the assets and liquidated that bank, and they were banned from offering new banking services. They said, customers, you can still withdraw your money and repay loans, but they can't offer any new products because it's all a mechanism to launder money and steal money. They got him on RICO, cross-border gambling, fraud syndicate, multiple crimes, operating illegal casinos, and a whole bunch of business operations, and concealing criminal proceeds. This dude came to Cambodia, gave up his Chinese visa, and became a citizen of Cambodia, where he was allowed to operate and become a multi-billionaire. Raj Patel and them last year seized about $15 billion worth of Bitcoin that he illegally got. I wonder why they didn't extradite him to the United States, because if they seized it last year, but we were actually, I wonder because they knew he was going to get dealt with in China, because the people he was enslaving were actually Chinese citizens. He would basically lure the people over and promise them jobs, but then he would make them and put them in these places where they had to commit fraud. That's on some next level above the Nigerians from what we know. He rolled up against somebody big time, because who does that? And the Chinese, and they extradited them back, knowing that they got the death penalty. Unless it's a front, they're trying to hide it because he is actually working for one of the government officials. But I think he rolled up against the government, and they gonna get money. They gonna make. Why do I have a thing that they basically have state sanctioned fraud, and he's gonna be putting head of it to work off for like 20 years or so? He basically, the prison that he has gotten for the everyday Chinese is the prison that he is gonna rot in. Wow. Very organized. He built an entire network based on fraud. Scheming, but somebody made a mistake. Somebody underneath him got greedy and wanted to take, and they got to one of them, and they just decided, you know what? I'm not trying to get extradited to nowhere, especially not to China. I'm Gucci. Let me just stay over here. We gonna rat on him so we can at least stay in the country. I think that's pretty dope in a way, but it's like people work hard to steal other people's money when there's enough money, obviously in infinitum, that can go around, and they basically, or he chose the dark side because he wanted more and more, because he was greedy. Now he and his buddies are getting ready to be taken down, and it didn't even have to be that way. Nobody don't need to feel sorry for him. He got because he got greedy. I am so impressed with Stacey Rush. She is paying these girls dust. When Tia said, what is wrong? Why? You Trouble My Soul, and she had to have a moment in the bathroom. Was it because Tia realized in that moment and going forward that she basically underestimated the delusions of Stacy? Yes, most definitely. Ashley trying to pile on. She knows they don't have a relationship. And pretty much she's morphing into Giselle Bryant. So she doesn't really care. She is accepted. And Stacy is just Stacy. She's not trying to morph into anybody. She's just being her authentically delusional ass. Even if she is lying, which in the instance of knowing Chris and not knowing Chris, I don't think that's the issue. The issue was they tried to use it as a point of contention, and Stacy doesn't care. And firmly, Monique really doesn't care, because I don't really think she does until this whole defamation and taking you to court. I don't know if defamation works like that, Chris, where if you say it and it's true, but you just didn't want people to say it, that doesn't mean defamation. That means you need to get your shit tighter. So he may be trying to do some gag order. He may not want to be a storyline, because I'm sure he didn't sign any releases, but I think he has his terms mixed up. And also, I don't think Monique Samuels really cares, unless it has something to do with some of her kids, and it doesn't really appear that he has any leg to stand on. And then getting back to why Jassy running her mouth. Let's just start there. But then number two, why is it triggering? Why is Angel, again, overreacting after the fact and in confessionals when the real person she wants to have a discussion with is not around? It's just delayed, and it's making her still look kind of stupid. If it's not true, then it's not true. But just maybe she's finding out. She said a lot of stuff, and she thought her self-image has been shattered since she has gotten in to this group, and she doesn't know how to build. She doesn't know what to build, and she just seems like a lost bird. Maybe it's good that she is in Denver and or Colorado, and she could just go back to her home, because that's where she seems to be the most secure. And who cares? She would still get alimony, she would still get half, but maybe her entire self-image or how she appeared to herself has been shattered. But does that mean she is nothing anymore? I don't know. I don't think she has a balance. She still has gone back to being uncomfortable this trip. And she's getting ready to be really shattered, because I think Giselle is straight up gangster. I'm not staying in that sewage water smelling house. We ain't got no water in the mountain. It ain't close to nothing. They all the way in Littleton, of all places. She couldn't even get, you mean to tell me the market is so tight, you couldn't even get them to Boulder? You couldn't even get them down the street from you? Girl, bye. If you really wanted to flex, why couldn't you get one of those glamping domes on your property? You don't got it like that? Girl, bye. This is so dumb. And that would have been the flex. Glamping right on your 30-acre property? Or are you just scared that they would not understand even that? Girl, I'm done. I'm kind of over the Angel Massey of it all. This could have gone so much better than what we're actually seeing. How confused is everybody else with the Angel Massey of it all? Will the real Angel Massey please stand up? This latest episode of Real Housewives of Potomac started off kind of like her season started off, with interesting. Her mood was different. Now It's giving train wreck. I can't even say it's funny like a Lucy and Ethel moment. I can't say that is any different than her delayed reactions and reads and getting caught like a deer in the headlights. It seems like she's still trying to impress Giselle, and Giselle knows that, and she ain't having it. It's just that if she would just relax and have fun, lean into the quirky mindfulness stuff, because right now it's giving BS. I don't know. I think I agree with Dustin Ross and Carlos King and C Murder, Claudia Jordan. If she would just lean into her reality, it would be more pleasurable. But right now, she's back to looking tired and confused, and she's disengaged, and she's just coming off whack. I think if she were to kind of listen without clenching up to something that Monique is saying, because Monique is really kicking the knowledge. Jessie is tripping because she's just a newly married wag. Her man is still in the NFL. So we could put a pin in that. And she seems to have a personality where we got two wags, old school NFL players. Bobby Massey is no longer in the NFL, retired. Chris Samuel retired at the top of his game from the NFL. Monique is seeing certain things. I don't know if she's completely projecting, but she also made a valid point. We're not seeing the whole story, so we may just need to reserve judgment. And I think that's the best, partially non-judgmental observation that she could give, because I don't even understand why she got them eating out in the cold air of it all. Why are those dudes over there? And she made a very good. Is it because that's Bobby's thing? These are Bobby's friends? Because they were all looking at them like these women were crazy. I don't know. I can't even make a judgment. It just was weird. And I think the person that pointed out the weirdness the most, and she hit it, is Stacy and Wendy F.A.A.F.O. They were like, who these men? Who these men? I was like that too. They were just looking at them like they were like fish in a bowl. Is this the type of clientele that you interact with? That basically go incognito, they don't want to do or need to do cameras? I wonder, is Bobby's fed up? He said he gave you the time. We're supposed to have rap. He followed her because he thought this was what you wanted. To a certain extent, this is what, and he's still kind of doing that, but is he fed up? Or is Angel projecting because she feels let down, because she said this is going to be so easy, like fish, shooting fish in a barrel, blah, blah, blah. And now he's seeing it up close, and he already saw it that these women don't give a crap about you, Angel. They looking at the pretension. They don't care. They'll clown even with their fabulous life because they still feel inauthentic. You still look and feel uncomfortable. Nobody cares, Angel. Literally nobody cares. I almost would feel bad for if I think she would buy a clue, and it looks like this is another episode where she has not bought a clue, because I don't give a crap about what you got to say in your confessionals and after the fact. Why can't you just clear it up and clear it? right in the moment. But these delayed reactions are tired, they're old, and it just proves that your place is not safe on this cast, and you need to get up out and just concentrate on expansion of your Wonderland travel, because this ain't hitting it. So I am sitting here trying to figure out what is bugging me about Angel Massey. It's just that she is consistently inconsistent. She has never met a group of women like the women on Potomac. She had so many opportunities to gather the girls all together. They were not going to let her do the bare minimum and think that she was going to fly. Only one person gets to do that, and that's Giselle Bryant. Mad shade right there, but she's not going to be top of the group because she's a wag, and I don't think she's ever found her place in this group because they aren't wags. Former wags like Monique Samuels and Jassy, who is a current wag, whose man is currently playing, and that has a little bit of a personality and is messy as hell. Angel saw herself so much above it all, and she just never found her way of finding her way to integrate herself into this group. Stacy, with all her delusions, she did something. If you guys have watched the after show, especially this week, Wendy F.A.A.F.O has been kicking the knowledge. She says she's there. When she stopped trying to impress Giselle, and she's sitting at the table with those stinking feet, Ashley and Giselle, she's coming to her own, and she's found out that she really doesn't need to fit in with all of them. She clocks in, she does her job, she keeps it pushing. And you mad because you have planned on ganging up on her and Stacy. Her and Stacy are like, we ain't here for the shits. She's paying them dust, and she can't understand why this mean girl, even if she was trying to be above it all, that didn't work. And this mean girl act after the fact, that don't work. Girl, pick one. You should have just picked one and rolled with it and just stood on business on your own without trying to take somebody else out, because that's not a good look. You can take the girl out of the hood, but you can't take hood music out the girl. But I'm going to end this with a word, just as I started this podcast. Do or do not do. There is no try. And that's a word from Yoda. I hope I have conveyed just how much fun I have had in creating this podcast. I've got my mojo back. Just set your intention or reset your intention. It could be daily if necessary. Mine is peace. No mental dumping over here. If I'm acting like I'm not listening, I'm probably not. I'm not your therapist. I'm not a therapist. Keep the crazy to yourself, child. You do you and leave me be. The sooner you figure that ish out, the happy you will be. So this is what I want to convey in this podcast. And that wraps another of F.A.A.F.O has a fro. Join me next time as I throw shade and point out the shade and simply have fun. Y'all have a great new year. What, y'all? What?